Hello, everyone. Welcome to the OT meeting room. I'm Deborah Battistella, your host, and today we're talking about healthy emotional environment, what it is, and why it's important. This is a little bit of a tough conversation to have, but it's also an empowering one. And I'm going to tell you a little backstory about why I decided to pick this topic to talk about today. If you don't know, I teach in an OTA program and I coordinate fieldwork. I am a fieldwork supervisor. I develop fieldwork programs. I develop OT programs. And I have 19 years of experience working in physical and rehab medicine. And I engaged in 3 conversations over the last 2 weeks that made me think we need to look at ourselves and how we're showing up in the world so that we can promote change. Oh, over the course of some time, I'm in a lot of Facebook groups and I see a lot of posts about people having unrealistic productivity environments. I read a lot about this. And this is a two-sided conversation. It's what am I doing to contribute to the problem and what am I doing to bring a solution to the problem? And so that's the perspective that I'm coming at from this conversation. The 3 conversations that I've engaged in over the past 2 weeks, one involved a student who was in her last 2 weeks of fieldwork, called me crying, wanted a WebEx meeting, and the poor honey could not hold back tears because she was being emotionally abused on her fieldwork. Quite frankly, I don't see any place for this ever. I certainly don't see a place for this in fieldwork. Now, when I had spoken to this student within the first 2 weeks of her placement, she was excited, she was thrilled. She knows that she wants to work in a hospital and she still feels that way. And she is smart enough to know that it's her fieldwork educator who is not supportive of her. This is the first time I've heard of this from this fieldwork educator, and this happens. Students put up with so much stuff from fieldwork educators because they are afraid. And it doesn't seem to matter how often we have the conversation where I tell them, if you're not happy, if things aren't going well, let's talk about this. Please make sure I know about this because I want to support you as best I can on your fieldwork experience. Students pay for this. Students want to be practitioners. There is no reason for abuse. However, what I do know is that people who have been abused will abuse. And in the physical medicine space, the rehab medicine space, the American Medical Association is a very strong and powerful organization. And the medical model is not conducive to always conducive. I shouldn't say 100% of the time one thing or the other because that's never true. But aspects of the medical model are not conducive to warm and loving and fuzzy environments. And I've worked in both. I've worked in settings where they've been amazing, where I've had amazing team members, amazing leadership. And then I've worked in settings where it's just not a place you want to be. So people know this. People are not dumb. So if you're acting from a place of not kind, people know that you're not. It's just that on the other side of that coin, a lot of us are willing to put up with a lot of things for money. So it's a deep conversation. I'm not going to get into it in too much in depth, but I do want to bring awareness to this and start a conversation where we start to identify what is a healthy emotional environment and why it's important. Real quick, the other 2 conversations, one had to do with a student who was so overwhelmed with a new placement. And conversations like this are super important to have because anytime we're stepping outside of our comfort zones, our insecurities are going to show up. Our brains are designed to keep us safe. And as we're using our brains, working hard, thinking all day, figuring out how to apply the information that we've learned over the past however many years we've been in school, and trying to make sense of this while working with real people who have real things going on, that is very tough. And then the third conversation was around a site that reached out to multiple schools in the area. They're having a difficult time getting their clinicians to take students. And, and not everyone is experiencing these challenges, even in the midst of COVID. Um, and so when things are like that for me personally, I start looking at myself and I start saying, what's going on with me that this thing seems to not be going well in my life? And I did not feel comfortable stating some of the obvious to them during that meeting, but I do feel a little comfortable saying it here for the world to hear. Um, it's not a secret that in rehab settings and in hospitals and rehab settings that productivity is being increased and um, things are being taken away from people. So some of the benefits are being reduced or eliminated. When that happens, you cannot expect people to continue giving and giving and giving. You know, people can overgive to the point where they're burnt out. It doesn't mean that they're not good clinicians. It just means that people are starting to put boundaries around themselves and say, if you're not going to support me in this way, then I can't do that. So for example, if clinicians are told that they can have that their productivity is reduced for taking a student, they're more likely to take a student. But when you're told, well, I'm sorry, we don't have enough staff, there's nothing I can do about that. Well, the thing that you can do to protect yourself is not take a student. And so while people are stepping up more and more to protect themselves emotionally and physically to be healthy on the job, we have to start thinking of new solutions to these problems. So that's the point of this conversation today. It's just for occupational therapy, a lot of people complain that we are not the first choice, we're not well known. Let's step up and become well known. So what is a healthy emotional environment? A lot of times we can't describe it with words, but we know it when we're in one. It's one where people feel safe. Plain and simple. If you've ever felt safe somewhere, likely people are supporting you emotionally. They're not judging you. They're not going to make fun of you for something that you say. They will hear what you have to say, and a really nice, deep, or fun conversation will ensue. It's one that embraces a growth mindset. Now, I listed Carol Dweck's book, Mindset, The New Psychology of Success. I have not personally read this book, although we use it a ton at the college. And I love looking at this mindset, the fixed versus growth mindset image. This is one that I made up. I did not um, take this from Carol, but what I know about fixed and growth mindset, there's two different sides of the spectrum. A mindset that's fixed, a person tends to avoid challenges. They tend to be very rigid in their thinking. They might give up easily, receive feedback as criticism, and they see that as a criticism that they're not enough, and this produces anxiety in them, and it keeps a person stuck. Whereas a growth mindset is one where people embrace challenges. They're a little bit more flexible in their thinking. They understand that there's more than one way to solve a problem. People tend to be persistent in the face of adversity. They view feedback as an opportunity to grow and change and to produce higher quality work, better quality work, become more of who they are. And it tends to help people become resilient. I think that embracing either one of these on a far end of a spectrum is not as healthy as having a combination of both. Sometimes we need to have some rigidity in our thinking. We need to hold our ground. We need to stand firm in what we know to be right or true. It's when our beliefs get in the way when we embrace something that we believe to be true that is not true, that this rigidity can cause us some problems. Um, and so remaining in the center of that with a little bit of fix, a little bit of growth, and then we tend to change and evolve over time. Also, healthy emotional environments tend to have leaders who are emotionally regulated. They lead by example and they create a safe space for all. They recognize the value that people bring to a team. They understand that they are not the only ones who know things, that other people know things too. And in this safe space that they create, they develop a team that really expands upon whatever it is they're doing. So, for example, we created a program for faculty at our college to use to guide students who might be having some challenges on their academic journey. We five of us worked on this together. Four OTA students, interns, myself, plus people from different departments at the college. Because we all worked together, because we all had brought our own perspectives and we were willing to share our own ideas, we created a product that the college is happy to use. People now feel more supported in their roles as faculty, as staff, and they are starting to have more confidence in moving forward to support students as the summer and fall semesters unfold. So, why is a healthy emotional environment needed? Because when people feel safe, they learn, they heal, they dream, they have vision, and positive change overall occurs. So, if you're talking about a rehab team, it's important for them to be able to ask questions so that they can understand what they should be doing. You know, we're all at a different level or a different place on our journey in terms of knowledge and understanding, especially about occupational therapy. Some people learn with repetition. Some people learn more hands on. Some people learn by observing, thinking, and then doing. Everyone learns differently. And when people feel safe to ask questions, try to apply some concepts, they learn with more confidence. And the more confidence they gain, the more confident they appear in the clinic. Same goes for the clients that we serve. If they don't feel safe with us, they might not be likely to do what we ask them to do. We might not build that therapeutic rapport with them. I know a lot of times this is a struggle in rehab environments and acute care environments. Personally, I was served a couple of years ago at an emergency room and I was not treated kindly. Now, thankfully, I'm a healthcare professional and I knew what was happening. I knew what to do. But, you know, I needed a pillow for my arm. I broke my wrist. I needed a pillow. You know who gave me the pillow? Not the nurse, not the nice aide who was not nice, walking me to my room. It was the security guy. He walked by my room and he said, "Hey, do you need anything?" I said, "Yes, please, a pillow." It's not hard to be nice, to serve people well, but it's a mindset. So, I'm throwing these things out there because they are real. So when people don't have these supportive environments, they lose the ability to dream. There's no vision. Like it's like people become little robots just going through the motions, and they do it because they think they need a paycheck. Anytime we work in an environment where all of our ideas are valued, all of our ideas are encouraged, where we're encouraged to share our ideas, that's when we start to have positive change. But change is hard. And some people are afraid of change. They feel threatened by change. So I just encourage you to take a look at yourself and see where you fall in these categories? Are you the kind of person who makes people safe, or are you a little bit more judgmental, a little bit more harsh of a critic, expecting things to be a certain way? That's not necessarily promoting a safe space for your environment, your team to grow. And whether you're in a leadership position or not, people are looking at you and deciding if you're someone that they want to work with, be like, etc. So when you know better, you can do better. Now, I remember years ago listening to Deepak Chopra talk, and he said that people do the best that they can from the level of awareness that they have. And I did struggle to understand that a little bit. But as I've grown and matured over the course of my life, I have learned that we all only do what we know. And as healthcare workers, as occupational therapy practitioners, we have a responsibility to look at what we know, decide if it's enough, or should we be learning more? Is what we're doing serving a team, or is it hindering a team? I had a therapist tell me one time, if you're not part of the problem, you are, or excuse me, if you're not part of the solution, you are part of the problem. And, those are kind of hard words to hear. They're hard words to receive, but they're true. And so the beauty of the growth versus the fixed mindset is that we can just take a step back from ourselves and look at ourselves and see, where is it that I need to grow? Because the reality is, as long as we're alive here on this planet, we should be growing and expanding. So I love this quote from Maya Angelou: when you know better, do better. So as an occupational therapist, I don't like to just preach to people, and I know that people understand what I'm saying, but sometimes we're not sure what to do better. So these are 3 strategies that have worked for me over the course of the years. The very first thing, I realized one day that wherever I go, if I'm experiencing a problem, the common denominator would be me, because if I'm not there, then I'm not having that problem, right? So I started looking at myself. And I heard somebody talking about judging one day, and I decided that maybe I needed to take a look at that. So I listened to the book. I love audiobooks. And I listened to the book Judgment Detox by Gabrielle Bernstein. Well, I was quite the judgmental character. And we all do it. It's one of those things that I think we have to just catch ourselves doing and say, whoops, no, we're not doing that anymore. So developing self-awareness around judgment for yourself, not other people judging, because other people do it too. That doesn't mean that it's a good thing to do. And it's not our jobs to change another person. It's only our jobs to take a look at ourselves. So I journal about the things and when I was judging, because if you journal about things and you can see patterns and topics that show up for you. And once you have this self-awareness around it, you can catch yourself and you can just eliminate that from your life. But I always think when you're taking something away, it's important to decide what you want to fill that space back up with. So for me, I say, let's decide who we want to be and how we want to show up. And if you don't have good role models in your life, then it's time to get some. So I love having mentors. I have a friend who, she and I now, we are at the point where we mentor each other, but I met her when I was a student on my very first field work a long time ago. And we have just stayed friends. And in terms of occupational therapy and how to think about what we're doing and changes and what's new in the profession, in the field, she is my girl. In terms of who I want to be, like the type of person that I want to be. I have some really amazing people in my life who walk in love. Like everything that they do is with love and kindness. Are they perfect? No. Who wants to be around anybody that's perfect? I don't want to. But I have learned a tremendous, tremendous amount from some of my colleagues who just are always helping me and others feel safe to learn and grow. And lastly, I was a little tongue clicky there. Try not to do that. So sorry. Lastly, podcasts. I investigate a lot of podcasts and I really love the No F, like there's a little star in there, CKS Given podcast by Sarah Knight. She's very sassy and funny, but she gives great strategies for how to help yourself become this person who really takes care of yourself. And the more we take care of ourselves, the more we love ourselves, the more we don't judge ourselves, the more loving we become, and the more loving we show up in life. And so, when I talk about love, I'm not talking about romantic love. I'm talking about attributes of love like kindness, compassion, and caring. Some of the things that seem to get squeezed out of people when they're overworked, and just a little awareness around that. I also like to listen to Lewis Howes and Jim Fortin because they are people who live from this place of integrity, like 100% integrity, where they live that way for themselves. And then whatever it is that they bring to the world is from a place of integrity. That's all I have to say today. I hope you found this talk beneficial. So, remembering that if we're involved in a situation that is less than stellar, then we are part of that. And the one thing that we have control over is ourselves. So remember, stop judging, develop some awareness around it, and then just decide who you want to be, how you want to show up in this world.